Yo, let me tell you how it all went down. My name's Tessa, and that summer felt like someone hit the reset button on my whole life without asking me. I came back to my mom's place after a rough year, lost my job, savings almost gone, confidence in the gutter, and walking into that house felt like stepping into a memory that didn't want me anymore. The same lavender candle smell, the same chipped plates on the table, but the vibe was cold, real cold. I dropped my bag by the door, said hey, nobody answered. Dad was sipping his coffee like he owned the world. Mom scrolling on her phone like I was invisible. Then Dad looks up, gives me that slow smirk and says, "You can take the guest room, or you can move out," just like that, no build-up, no emotion. Like he was talking about furniture. My heart just froze. I'm 24, working 2 jobs, paying rent, keeping quiet, cleaning up after myself, and suddenly I'm the problem. I blink, ask, "What do you mean?" Mom finally looks at me, tight smile. "That room isn't yours anymore. Your sister needs it when she visits." And I just sit there thinking, seriously? The sister who shows up once every few months gets the room. But me, the one actually living here, yeah, I am the guest. Dad leans back like he's dropping wisdom. "You're not a kid anymore. Adults don't live with their parents," and I almost laugh. My sister's 30, still has a key, still borrows money, but she's not the problem. I am. I push my chair back slowly, hands shaking but voice calm. "So when do you want me out?" Dad pauses, then says, "A few days," like that's supposed to sound generous. I just nod, walk upstairs, sit on the bed that used to feel like home, stare at the walls, childhood photos, old posters, but none of it feels mine anymore. That night I don't sleep. Every creak in the house sounds like a countdown. Guest room or move out, those were my only options. By morning I'd already decided. I wasn't taking the guest room. That wasn't a compromise, that was a message. "You don't belong here." I made my coffee, cleaned the kitchen out of habit, then started packing quietly. No drama, no yelling, just folding clothes, putting my life into boxes. By the 3rd day, my car was loaded. Dad stood on the porch with his arms crossed. No hug, no goodbye, nothing. I pulled out of the driveway and waited for the guilt to hit. So once I was out and settled into my tiny little studio, that's when the real shift happened. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet and intentional. Every morning I woke up without anyone watching my moves or judging how late I slept, and that freedom hit different. I started building routines just for me. Gym early mornings, cheap coffee, late nights grinding on my laptop, and slowly my phone started buzzing again. First it was Mom asking dumb stuff like where the insurance papers were, then Dad texting about the Wi-Fi password. Small things, nothing urgent, but I could feel it. They were realizing how much I used to handle without them noticing. And I answered every message calm, polite, distant, no emotions attached, like I was helping a neighbor, not my own parents, and that distance, it messed with them, I could tell. Mom's tone shifted from shocked to confused real quick. She'd pause mid-sentence like she was trying to figure out when she lost control. Meanwhile, my life was low-key leveling up. I landed a better job, nothing crazy but steady, respectful, paid on time. My boss actually listened. My coworkers checked in. It felt wild being treated like I mattered. I started going out more, meeting people who didn't know my family drama, people who laughed easy and didn't make me feel like a burden. And the funny thing was the more my life filled up, the more theirs started falling apart. Dad called one night irritated asking how to pay a bill he didn't understand. Mom complained the house felt messy even though nothing had changed. And I realized something important. They didn't miss me, they missed the peace I brought. The quiet fixing, the emotional labor. And once I saw that, I stopped offering extra help. No reminders, no checking in, no emotional cushioning, just answers when asked, nothing more. And that's when the guilt they expected never showed up. Instead, I felt stronger, lighter, like I was finally choosing myself. They tried to pull me back in subtle ways, dinner invites. "Just come sit in your old room." Little comments about family, but I declined politely. Always busy, always moving forward. And every no I said built another brick in my independence. This wasn't revenge in the movie sense. No yelling, no crying, but it was powerful. 'Cause I was winning by living better, by not needing them, by showing them I wasn't temporary anymore, and deep down they knew it. That scared them more than any argument ever could. That's when things really started getting uncomfortable for them. Not because I did anything loud or petty, but because I stopped being available, like fully unavailable, no quick replies, no fixing stuff last minute, no emotional support on demand. I had my own rhythm now and I wasn't breaking it for anyone. especially not people who made me feel small. My phone would buzz while I was at work or out with friends, and I'd just let it sit there, not out of spite, but because my life didn't revolve around their emergencies anymore. Mom started calling instead of texting, her voice softer, almost careful, asking how I was doing like it was new territory. Dad followed up with messages that felt weirdly unsure, like he wasn't used to not being in control, and I could feel it. The power shift, subtle but real. They invited me over for dinner one Sunday, said I could use my old room, and that line right there told me everything. Not your room, not your home, just a space you're allowed to occupy temporarily. So I said no, simple, calm, no explanation. And the silence after that hit hard. Days passed without contact. Then my sister called, laughing awkwardly, said they think I've changed, said I'm distant now. I told her, yeah, distance does that. It makes you see things clearly. She brushed it off, said I get over it, but I knew better. I wasn't getting over anything, I was getting through it. Meanwhile, my life kept moving forward, paychecks steady, friendships real, nights peaceful. And for the first time, I realized revenge didn't need closure. It didn't need apologies, it just needed consistency. Choosing myself over and over until they understood I wasn't coming back to the role they'd assigned me. And that realization, that was power. By this point, the energy had completely flipped and they felt it. Heavy, uncomfortable. Like walking into a room where the temperature suddenly dropped. Dad stopped sounding confident on the phone and started sounding unsure. Asking questions instead of giving orders, Mom's texts got longer, softer, filled with random updates about neighbors and weather, like she was trying to rebuild something without admitting it broke. And the wild part was, I wasn't even trying to hurt them anymore. I was just unavailable, fully booked with my own growth, my own peace, my own plans. I upgraded my studio. Nothing crazy, but new shelves, better lighting, plants in the window, made it feel like a real home. And one night I invited them over, not to flex, not to prove anything, just to show them I was good. They walked in looking around quietly, taking in the clean space, the calm vibe, the fact that I didn't need saving. Mom ran her hand over the kitchen counter and said, it felt peaceful. Dad stood by the window staring out like he was calculating something, maybe realizing pushing me out didn't break me, it built me. Dinner was polite, almost awkward. They kept waiting for me to complain or blame them, but I didn't. I talked about work, about friends, about future plans, about possibly moving cities next year. And that's when I saw it, that flicker of panic in their eyes. The understanding that I wasn't orbiting them anymore, that I had my own gravity now. Later that week, Dad called and said maybe they were too harsh. Not an apology exactly, just close enough to taste it. And I didn't jump at it, didn't rush to reassure him. I just said I needed space back then, and I'm glad I took it. Simple, steady, no anger attached, and that calm response hit harder than any argument ever could, because they finally understood something real. I wasn't rebelling, I wasn't being dramatic. I had just grown out of the version of myself that begged for permission to exist. And there was no going back to that. Not now, not ever. The final shift didn't come with fireworks or some dramatic apology scene. It came quiet, almost ordinary. Dad called on a random Tuesday evening, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. No edge, no authority, just human, he said. The house felt different lately. Too quiet, like something important was missing. And I already knew what he meant, but I didn't rush to fill the silence. Mom got on the phone after him, and this time there was no passive tone, no subtle guilt trip. She just said she hoped I was happy. And that question hit different, because for the first time it felt genuine. I looked around my studio, at the plants by the window, the soft lamplight. My laptop open with work I actually enjoyed. My calendar filled with plans that had nothing to do with proving myself. And I smiled, told her, yeah, I am. And I meant it. There was no bitterness left in me. No need to win because I already had. I didn't need them to admit they were wrong. I didn't need the guest room turned back into mine. I didn't need a dramatic reconciliation. What I needed was what I'd built. Peace, independence, space to exist without shrinking. They stopped offering conditions after that. Stopped reminding me I was temporary. And started speaking to me like someone who could walk away and never look back. Because now I could, and they knew it. That was the real revenge, not anger, not distance. But growth so undeniable, they